Hello and welcome to the Mobile Accessible Games interview series. I'm your host, Aaron Spelker. Mobile Accessible Games is a group that focuses on all things about mobile accessible gaming, and through our interview series, we interview accessibility advocates and influencers, as well as game developers. And this week we have a very special guest in Kamil Rykowski. He is the creator and developer of the game Lost Vault. Now, Lost Vault is the game that just won Mobile Accessible Game of the Year for the most accessible mobile game. And that is a award that is voted on by the community members about games that they played in the year 2022. And Lost Vault was the winner. So we were lucky enough to get Kamil to join us on an interview to talk about his award-winning game. So Kamil, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
We also have a guest host, co-host, sidekick, if you will, in Michael Gray. My community members will know Michael from NewDeath Gaming. Michael is about the biggest Lost Vault fan I know of, so I thought it might be exciting for him to be able to sit in on the interview and ask some follow-up questions as well. So, Michael, welcome as well.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I am very humbled to be here, and I am a huge fan of Kamil's and Lost Vault.
So, Kamil, we always like to open up the interview, just turning it over to you for, a brief bio about yourself, who you are, and just a little bit about, what your story is to get the community familiar with you.
Sure. So, hello, everyone. My name is Kamil, and I'm from Europe, Poland. Personally, I really like to collect retro consoles and games up to the GameCube and the Dreamcast era, and spend my time with family. And professionally, which is much more interesting for you, I'm a software developer with around 13 years of experience, building mostly web applications and mobile ones, starting from a small startups up to the medium-sized companies, up to the global corporations. I've been mostly working for external clients through my career, but in my heart, I always wanted to create something for my own, for my own own product. It could be a mobile application, a web application. It could be basically anything, because when you have your own product, then there's where the fun begins.
Yeah.
But as I've been an avid gamer in the past, I really played a lot of the games in the past when I've been younger. Now I don't have a lot of spare time. Then I've decided that I need to build a mobile game which could be played by people who don't have much spare time during the day in order to stay competitive. So there's been like a small light in my head. All right, let's do something. But I didn't really know what exactly I want to build. I just wanted to build some kind of game. And that's it. That's the introduction. That's short. All right.
When you say you collect retro consoles and gaming systems, what is the prime jewel of your collection?
Oh, I think that would be the Paper Mario, the 1,000 Years Door, which costed me like €400 in the state which it is. I've played through it the whole game. I'm not playing all the games which I collect, but this particular one is special, and I really love it.
Do you go as far back as like the Atari 2600? Do you have one of those?
No.
No. That was my first gaming system, was the Atari 2600. So lots of nostalgia around.
We'll have to check it out.
Okay, great. So you said you wanted to create something for yourself, and that ended up being a game called Lost Vault. Again, the Mobile Accessible Game of the Year winner. Why don't you tell people a little bit about what is Lost Vault?
So Lost Vault is online RPG game where you compete with other players around the globe. But the aim goal is to make the game to be run in a short burst during the days. So you simply have 2 sessions when the water replenish on your character. Then you spend like 5 or 10 minutes during the day to explore the wastelands, to kill some monsters, to fight with other players, to participate in the guild system through some battles, or donating resources in order to further expand. And when you are not playing, you're starting something called a caravan. So in order to gather additional resources. So everything is kept in a manner that you cannot really go wrong. If you spend 5 up to 10 minutes twice a day, you basically are done with the game and you can focus on your life or on other games which you like to play. I don't want to really consume your time because I know that it's precious, and yeah, like go ahead and play other games. It's not a primary game which you spend a lot of time during the day.
I will say so. I am a level 55 in the game, and Michael, who is on this call as well, he's even higher than me. I don't know. You're 60 something now, right, Michael?
I am level 68, playing a druid, and yes, run a clan currently right now.
Um, so I end up spending more than 5 or 10 minutes. I probably spend 30 minutes a day, twice a day, because besides doing all the things that you said, then I'm like, oh, I gotta upgrade my weapons and I gotta, combine my gems and doing all that. So, I probably spend about 30 minutes, probably an hour a day on Lost Vault playing. And I don't know, Mike, what's your experience? How often do you end up playing?
I do have a little bit more time on, I would say an hour a day, simply because I also run a clan, which is Clan Tribe Blind. Well, it's a Tribe Blind. I run that as the chieftain. So that takes about 5 to 10 minutes to send a few messages, coordinate our reactor fights, also to invite new members, which is a very great feature of Lost Vault. It's a social game. It is accessible MMO for everyone. And I spent about a good 30 to 40 minutes on my own. And like Kamil said, it's really quick. It doesn't have to be primary, but you can make it primary if you'd like I do.
Yeah. So, why this particular game? Why Lost Vault? Why an online, RPG type of game? Why was that what you decided is the game that you wanted to make?
Oh yeah, so it's been probably my biggest mistake to build on my own online game, because it's a pretty tough topic in order to build a fully fledged online game. If I could get back in the past, I would build something smaller, but I do not regret anything because I finally managed to release it, but it took me a few years in order to deliver it. I had basically a few plans on what could I build like 6 years ago. I couldn't really pick up titles like, I don't know, a Call of Duty or League of Legends or Angry Birds, because in such type of games, you have a lot of concepts which I'm not much experienced, like physics, gravity, a lot of math, which is like a rocket science for me. So I'm a programmer, but I don't do a lot of math in my job time. So I had to pivot a bit into something bit simpler. And to mention, as a teenager, I loved to play a web browser games. It's not the case anymore because the web browser games has been annihilated by the mobile world.
Right.
But the titles like Tribal Wars, Travian, O Game, Blood Wars, there's been a lot of similar games where you micromanage your resources. You have to imagine a lot of things because there are not a lot of graphics in it. It's more like a text-based and image-based games. And as I really love this, I decided to build something similar. So it's like a retro game, but with much more modern approach, because the game that's been like 20 years ago. So I wouldn't really like to play this on my own, because it does have a lot of stale mechanics and that the world has changed. So I've decided simply to build something fresh. And it's important also to mention that it's an online game. So you cannot take a game which is 20 years old, which have like a few players online and have a lot of fun in it. Like mentioned, if you want to run a clan, you need members. So you need a bunch of active people in the game itself. So you need to get something fresh. And I think that I've managed to deliver it.
Absolutely. Now, I find it interesting you say, math isn't your strong point, because I view there being a lot of math in Lost Fault behind the scenes. You have, a weapon, and that might have, your strength, intelligence, luck modifiers. Then you throw on gems, which increase that even more. You have your skills, which increase your health by an additional 10%. So there's got to be a pretty robust mathematical formula in there to calculate with the specific equipment you have equipped and the stats that you decided to increase. What is the outcome of the damage that you create or the damage that's inflicted on you? I imagine it's a pretty complex mathematical formula. So maybe if you could talk a little bit about that formula and how you construct it at kind of a high conceptual level.
Yeah, so I said that I'm really bad at math, and I didn't really want to pick a game which is math-based and physics-based. So I decided on something simpler. But as you mentioned, in the game itself, there are a lot of math which I wasn't really aware of at the beginning. So at some point of time, I've simply hit a wall. Like, all right, so I have to figure out like hundreds of different formulas on how to calculate different things and have them balanced, because if you don't have any kind of balance between various parts of the game, then it's simply broken and you cannot really enjoy it. So the last year I put like several weeks just to make balance things in the game, because during the alpha tests and the beta tests I didn't really put much attention to it. So the damage has some fake formula in order to calculate it, basically, and everything being unbalanced. So for example, when you wanted to explore the vaults, so we have a vaults with this kind of bosses, it turned out that in order to clear vault number 1, which is the simplest one, you have to be like a 50 level in order to kill all the monsters. So there's been a lot of issues, a lot of problems in it. But in the end, I've invented for my own purposes an internal framework in order to balance at different parts of the game. So these are not like some free building blocks which are not connected to each other. Basically, every part which involves math is connected to another block. And when I'm changing something in one block, then another block gets updated. So it's not like I'm putting some magic numbers in my formulas and everything breaks. It's much more, well, it's complicated. Sometimes when I get back to the code, which is responsible for managing all these formulas, I have to put like an hour in order to understand what exactly did the past me put in here. I simply
what was past me thinking?
He didn't left me any comments in the code, so what does it even mean? But it's not that hard anymore, because I'm not providing any, let's say, breaking changes. So of course I'm introducing new features like the altar, which been just recently introduced to the game. But I have also some kind of mechanism to warn me if I would like to release a functionality which would break the balance. So I have some kind of simulations run locally. So it simulates the real player. So it simply starts a new account, it starts exploring, it starts running the caravan, but it's a bot. So it's a bot which plays the game.
Gotcha.
In a really fast formula. So and the output is like, it will take me 5 years in order to get to the last level, which is a 100 level. And if I introduce some breaking change, it will probably say me that it will take me 6 months. So if I will see something like that, like from 5 years to 6 months, it means I've something broke in the formulas. I have to fix it.
Gotcha. Well, and so with that, is your formula modular? So like when you add something like the skills tree at level 60 or 50, or you put something like the altar in, is it easy to plug those into the formula, or do you have to like go in there and rework the formula to now include this new feature that you have?
No, like for the skills, I didn't really need to change the core part of the game. I simply need to put some extensions and updates, but it's been on top of the already existing system, so I don't have to mess with what's in the core part. There are also formulas which are like 3 or 4 years old, which I didn't touch since that time. So I don't really want to touch it anymore, and I'm afraid to touch it.
Sure. Well, I learned something here because we've had a debate of like, what is the top level? So a level 100 is as high as you can go.
Yeah, that's correct.
And when you're building all of this, is it what program is it? Is it Unity or is it something else? What program are you using to create this Lost Vault?
Yeah, so basically the game is split into 2 parts because it's an online game. So we have a mobile part. So that's the thing which you download from the App Store or the Google Play Store. And it's written in a Flutter. That's a framework from Google, which is powered by the Dart language. It's kind of a new technology. It's like 5 years old. So as for the technologies, it's quite new, and I'm simply using it to develop the Lost Vault game. It's not dedicated really for building games. It's more for the apps, but I quite extended it in order to provide it to be good choice for building a mobile game. And that's the part which you are using on your daily basis. But as the Lost Vault is not an offline and it's online, so it needs to connect somewhere. So there are servers in the cloud which are run on the Python and the Django framework, which accepts all the traffic which you send it. So for example, you are the player A and you want to attack player B, then you send an information that I'm a player A and I want to attack player B, and you send it to the server, and the server do all the magic. So it starts the fight and it provides you the output of it, like the steps, who won the fight, what's the reward, etc., etc. So that's just to avoid any kind of exploits and hacks which are done on the offline game. So you cannot really cheat in the Lost Vault.
Now, is that you like pay a company for that service and for that online space, or is that like a dedicated computer you have sitting in your living room? Like, how does that online server aspect work?
So I have a few virtual machines on the AWS. So there is a cloud, and I render machines. I don't run it locally on my own in my house. I did it at the beginning, but then when there is no power supply and I have an internet connection issues at my house, then the game is unstable basically. So I need to pay to the professionalists.
Gotcha. But do you know how many like gigs of memory is needed on that server to handle Lost Vault right now?
At the moment, I have 10 machines. Each one have like 4 gigs of memory, and I don't remember how much CPU does it get.
Oh, that's fascinating. This creation of Lost Vault is just solely you, right? That you thought of it 4 or 5 years ago and released it a little over a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and then all the updates that you're putting forth and changes that you've made since then. Again, this is all you doing this.
Yeah, so basically I'm a one-man army and I'm doing everything on my own, both the server side, the mobile side, acquiring new players to the game, prototyping the screens. The only thing which I cannot really do is providing the assets, so the images or the sound effects or the music. The music is not yet in the game, but it's planned for incoming future. So all the creative assets, I simply buy them from external designers or compositors because I'm terrible at it. But everything except that I'm doing on my own.
Yeah, so you just buy like whatever, an RPG sound pack that someone's put out there and take the elements that you need for different parts of your game.
Yeah, that's how it works exactly.
Now, so I am fully blind. Michael, who's on the call, also fully blind. So I don't even know what images exist in the game. So what images are in the game?
So what images? So basically, there are a ton of images. There are like 100 of megabytes of images in the game itself. So every item has its own image. And as we have around 1,000 of unique items, there is 1,000 of unique images in the game. The avatars, so the player has his own avatar. Every profession, so we have 4 professions in the game, or the classes, and each of them have like 25 avatars. The resources, like a fuel or the food, the water, everything has their own image, and the images are split into 2 categories. The fantasy one, so if you play as a knight or as a wizard, then you have a bit different images. So it's more like a fantasy based. But if you play as a ranger or as a rebel, then you have more post-apocalyptic vibes. So they're more like a baseball bats, etc.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I had no idea there was any images in the game at all. So that's interesting. And those just, as I pull up my, whatever my furry boots, there's some picture of furry boots on the screen while I'm looking at the stats and stuff like that.
Yeah, most of the people simply look at the stats. So the image doesn't really matter. The name doesn't really matter. If it has higher stats, then these are the better boots.
Right, exactly. So when you were working on the balance, you said, that's a simulation that you ran, but did you have like also beta testers? Like you have a beta testing team that kind of goes through and helps you deal with features that you're adding to the game or the original game before you released it?
No, everything I'm doing on my own. So even if I'm releasing a new feature like the altar, then I'm releasing it to the server side. So it got released like 2 months ago. It's been like sitting on the server side. I have my own version of the game. So I'm building it on my local computer. I'm uploading it to the phone, and then I'm testing if it works correctly or not. So everything is done by me. But it's gonna change soon, because just recently, 2 days ago, I think, I've announced that there will be closed beta testing of a new functionality which will be added to the game, and I will probably keep the list of the beta testers in order to test upcoming additional features. So I'm not gonna do it on my own anymore.
Gotcha. Now, the game, as winner of the Mobile Accessible Game of the Year, has a lot of accessibility, works very well with voiceover. Things are labeled and whatnot, and it's easy to swipe and navigate around the screen. How did you come aware of accessibility? Did it come out of the box kind of already sort of accessible because it's a text-based game, or did you have to, really take every element and add accessibility to it?
Oh, so basically, I wasn't really aware of the accessibility. Just like 2 years ago, I maybe I heard about accessibility, but I didn't really put much attention to it. And one day, too bad I don't remember the name of the player who reported it. But it's been like a few weeks after the official launch. There's been like some kind of player who's been blind, and he wrote me a positive feedback about the game, that he plays it, he really enjoys it, but he has some problem when he's increasing the attributes. So you have your character, you bumping the stats like strength or intelligence, and he reported that when you put a point in any of these attributes, the voiceover jumps to the top, and then you need to travel back to the attribute section, then increase it again, and repeat and repeat. So I didn't really hear about the voiceover. Like I've been, what the heck is that? Like, all right, I have to Google it and see how does it work, what gestures does it have, read some content about the accessibility, and then I've enabled the voiceover on my own iPhone, and I've been surprised by how it works. It's quite cool. Like I'm not a blind person, but when I've enabled it, it's quite cool. I've started the game. It's been reading me a lot of the text which it sees on the screen. So it's been good. But when I've been researching the other screens, I've realized that the game is not really accessible. Like it's saying some trash talking, like there is an image of the item, so I would assume it will tell me that it's boots, this kind is armor, and it will be saying that's an image, and
Right.
it's image as
Image,
well.
and then some long
Right.
number for the file name or whatever.
I've been, it's been terrible. Like I didn't really understand how this player could play the game. Like everything is image. It could be a text which could be read out, or it could be image and you have no idea what is it. So I put around 50 hours in order to get through the whole game. With the voiceover, I've had the comfort that I can see what's on the screen and get the hints from the voiceover. And I've been fixing every part of the game in order to make it accessible. And I've released it. I've also fixed the bug which got reported with this increasing the attributes. And the player been really grateful. He wasn't really aware of a lot of features which been in the game, like the rides. He couldn't really access the ride functionality to ride other shelters, etc. So it's been so well burned under the hood that you cannot really access it except your finger if you know where's the icon. And some of the buttons wasn't really a button. It's been like a text which you can tap, and then you are taken to another screen. So there's been a lot of content which been simply unlocked for our blind users.
Right. By being consistent in how it's labeled, so I know it's something that's you can interact with.
Yeah, and still till that time, I simply continue to improve the accessibility. I'm still aware of few issues which we got there, but this will be probably fixed after the redesign phase. And I still keep in mind, especially that the blind community in the Lost Vault is quite big.
Yeah, it is a pretty decently sized community, and like I think you just, if I remember seeing it, like on the weekend caravan boost, you now in the caravan kind of indicate which one is being boosted, because I think there was like a plus or something. There was some image that we didn't see, and so I always just went to the global chat on Friday, and someone was nice enough to always announce what the boost was for the weekend for the people who were blind. But I think that's something that you've since added into us voiceover users know what's going on. So I really appreciate the fixes you make along the way to make it a smoother interface.
Just to mention, it's not my bad will. Like I don't really understand or can really imagine on what exact issues could you have with the voiceover. So like there is no hint about what's the extra rewards on the caravan. Is that I simply didn't think about that it's inaccessible. So I really appreciate the feedback which you provide me on the Discord, that we cannot really see what's the special type of a caravan is this weekend, so I can simply fix it. So the feedback is really appreciated.
Yeah. What and doing all of that 50 hours of accessibility work to get the game up to snuff and functional, I mean, what was the hardest challenge you had of making some part of the game accessible?
Well, the hardest part been like there wasn't really one element which been the toughest. There's been simply a lot of work. So the game consists of like 80 different screens, and I simply had to get through all of this and fix every single part of the screen. And still, I still cannot really use the gestures of the voiceover. I simply forgetting about what kind of gesture can I use. Like I'm using only the basic ones, like the swiping or pinching.
Right.
But there are, I've seen the guidelines, and there are a lot of other gestures which you can implement into the game. And I would really like to do it, but some of them are simply impossible to implement with the technology which I choose, which is a Flutter.
Right. Yeah, there's Lost Vault is pretty accessible. I try to think of all the page elements. There's sometimes when people have like long laundry lists of stuff that could be broken up into groupings, where a header might be nice to jump from one group to the next group, but you really haven't had much of that issue, I think, with Lost Vault. Each screen is pretty compact, so if you end up swiping, you don't swipe too many times before you get all the way from the top to the bottom, like you would on some other pages that have a lot more information on a particular screen. You were kind of mentioning some of your background in web design. It sounds like some contracting work. How much of your day does Lost Vault take up? Is Lost Vault the primary thing you do, or is it a secondary thing that you're doing more in the evenings?
No, it's definitely more like a secondary thing. So I have a primary job, which I use to get money in order to live. And Lost Vault is still my pet project, which I dedicate mostly the time during the evening. It's like up to the 2 hours in the evening. I simply spend the time on developing the things or acquiring the users. So that's how it works at the moment. But I hope that this year I could change it and make the project itself a bit more profitable, so I could quit my primary job and focus simply on the Lost Vault. We'll see.
Now, I think the first time I looked at my rank on Lost Vault, I was number like 13,000. I'm level 55 now, and I'm something like level 950 or something like that, or close to 1,000. But that's after 6 months of constantly playing. So all those people that above me, and even probably a couple thousand below me, are all very active users. Do you have kind of a sense of how many people a day play Lost Vault? And some of those metrics.
Yeah, of course. On a daily basis, I have around 3 up to 5,000 of active players. So that's a bunch.
Yeah, I mean, so not knowing much about games, but I mean, that sounds pretty healthy of amount of players. If you have that kind of engagement on a constant basis, I think that would be considered quite a success, right?
Yeah. When I mentioned it to my friends or something who is from the industry, he simply asked me, so if you have 3 up to 5,000 of active daily users, why do you work on your primary job? Like, drop it and live from the game. The problem is that the Lost Vault is quite free to play, and it doesn't really have aggressive monetization. Like, it do not force you to buy the cups or watch the ads and so on, so on. So I need a bit to work on this aspect. I don't want to make it a pay to win, because I really hate the concept of winning the game simply by paying a bunch of dollars and then you can buy some items or anything like that. So that's not the case here. So I have to figure out something else in order to keep the current players happy. So the game still need to be a free to play and competitive, even if you don't spend money, because, for example, you cannot afford some virtual goods in a mobile game. I totally get it. So I need to find some other monetization or increase the player base, which is the plan for this year.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it is good in that way of, you don't have to buy anything you don't want to buy. I bought, I don't know what you exactly call it, but the starter pack that gives you the extra 5 backpack spaces and like 100 free gems or whatever as a starter. And that was great and enough. And, I really appreciated the extra backpack room at the beginning to kind of do it. I'd even pay another, whatever that was, $5.99 or whatever it costs to get 5 more spots in my backpack, just because I like to carry a lot of stuff around with me. So, maybe that's open up where you can buy that particular feature twice. I think you get a lot of people, particularly those active members. I bet you they would buy that. I know Mike had to step away for a second, but I don't know if he's back. Mike, are you back yet? All right,
I am back. I would gladly pay for many more backpack slots, Kamil.
Yeah.
So you would like to buy a more backpack space?
Oh, absolutely. God, yeah. But also, thank you for the generosity of allowing it. Whenever you buy the backpack space, it opens up for all the alternate accounts. If it hasn't been mentioned, Kamil, you're one of the few developers that have allowed us to have multiple save points, which speaks to the construction of how you designed the game. So you can have many different accounts on Lost Vault, and all of them take advantage of that very lightweight monetization policy, because you are very light on your monetization. which means your generosity means that we can play many different accounts and still take advantage of things like the backpack size increase.
Yeah, yeah. So as you buy, you're on your Druid account and buy the backpack, and you have also a Ranger and a Knight. When you go into them, they'll have the extra backpack space as well. So that's great to not have to buy it for each character per se. But yeah, I would definitely pay for more backpack space. I just love carrying stuff around, and I'm always flush with a lot of gems that I'm carrying around with me. But yeah, I mean it's such a nice game from the standpoint of, like I said, you don't feel like, oh, I can't move on unless I go and spend $1.99 to buy some gems to move past this part. You can decide whether you want to do that, just to move quicker or have more backpack space. It's very, at your discretion. And, if you want to do it, you can do it. If you don't want to do it, you can still play the game and be competitive as easy as everybody else.
Yeah, I already took a note about the backpack space because I wasn't really aware of people who would like to have even bigger backpack, because I played the game pretty casually, and the backpack space which I got is more than enough because I recycle everything. I don't keep anything in my backpack. But if there are people who would like to get a bigger one, then maybe I will think about it.
Well, Kamil, I'm a pack rat, so I've got to have my farming equipment. Then I've got to have my World Boss farming equipment. Then I've got to have my Reactor Boss equipment. I have cash. I have my Plus Experience equipment, and then your damage for the Vault Bosses. So, yeah, the pack ratters like me, we definitely appreciate the extra backpack space.
Yeah, and I always have, so you have the modifiers where you can, take stuff and get extra luck for 12 hours or extra agility or extra strength, or whatever the case may be. And I always have one set of, one of each of those in my backpack at all times. So like that takes up however many spots right away, eight spots or something like that. Plus, as Michael said, I have a kind of a set of stuff that's going to give me more experience versus a set that's going to give me more damage for when I am going into the reactor and fighting for my team. I don't put on the experience gear; I put on the damage gear. So yeah, the more backspace, great. And you want to monetize too. Give me a one-time purchase that unlocks, a ride, an extra. An extra chest space and an extra, pet incubation space. I would pay for that too.
Well, there is an extra pet. There are 2 extra pet spaces that you can unlock for 20 bottle caps, which last almost amount of time.
But I'm saying permanent,
Permanent, yes.
Yeah.
If we could make those permanent, that would be great. Yes.
The permanent option to unlock the incubator, or
I'm just making up a number, but charge me $10 and I get a permanently unlocked an extra chest and incubator space.
All right.
And I was wondering if we could also, and I know it's a Christmas list, obviously. If we could open up more possible chest slots. We can currently have 4 that are unlockable. But if you're as big a player as I am playing the game a couple hours a day, I do appreciate having more opportunities to have more chest unlocks. It brings so much value to the game, which is already rich already. But it allows me to have more manipulation and minimaxing of the items that I do take in and ingest each day.
Well, in fact, we had 5 chest slots during the early beta testing 2 years ago. When you unlock the starter pack, you simply get additional chest slot just for you. But it turned out to be quite a pay to win, and it had a too big impact on the game itself. Like the player didn't really enjoy it. Like it's too much, so we don't really want it. So I simply accepted it and removed the chest slot from the starter pack.
Yeah. Of course, you got to watch balance on any of these things. You know what I also like, and you do it every once in a while, and I would love to see it even more. Like when you did, like the Halloween event, and you picked up little things that just gave you 10% water or 5% water or 3% water or 9%, like these little extra water things. I really liked that as well, because it kept me playing during the day longer, because I kept kind of collecting some of those and having more that I could go into the wasteland with that water. And then obviously that always became a big struggle of managing my backpack, because I kept getting water and I had to kind of sell off gear or combine gems or do some work in there to manage my water supply and my inventory backpack as well. But I just love those. They're just one little 3% here, 5% there, 6% there on the water on these the events. And I forget which ones you did. You did like a 4th of July one, I think, and a Halloween one, or I forget what. There was a couple, maybe a St. Patrick's Day one, if I remember. I love those events. I would love to see more of those.
I will probably work on more events, because right now we have around 7 events during the year, so it's not a lot. I would really aim to have at least 1 event during a month, so each month should have its own event with the special drops. It's not complicated on my side in order to provide it, because the event is basically some increased experience and the cash gains, and as mentioned, consumables, which gives you a bit of water. So that's also a thing which I've been working on this year.
I love those bit of water ones, because it adds a layer of strategy, because you're like, all right, I'm going to collect all of these water ones and I'm going to save them, and then I'm going to take the experience boost, and now I'm going to run through all of my water so that I really ramp up during that 12 hours. I get I can get it where I get 2 runs of water from the refills, plus all those water drops, as well as whatever water bottles that I happen to have in my inventory. And then it really kind of gives a huge boost to my experience when I kind of strategize and save them up for the right time to use them.
Yeah, every time before the event starts, I see on the Discord a lot of images from the players who show their backpack, and the backpack consists of a bunch of water bottles. So you have like 40 slots in your backpack, and 30 of them are occupied by water bottles. And I'm like, what are you doing and why? But I, of course, understand why are you doing it, because you want to really boost your gains from the event. Personally, I don't do it, because I don't really want to spend a lot of time on one day in order to use all these bottles, but I totally get the point.
Round water bottle drops, quick question here. Round water bottle drops, what is the expected average rate of how often I should see a drop of a water bottle from whatever activity I'm doing? Am I supposed to be getting 1 a week, 1 every 3rd day? Like what would you say is about the average amount of time that I should be seeing a drop, like a water bottle or the extra experience booster? How often are those things supposed to drop? And is there anything that I can do to impact how often those drop? Like if I have like super high luck, does it drop more often or no?
All right, so the first thing, the luck doesn't really involve the drop of the consumables, so it doesn't affect it. It affects the rarity of the items, like the legendary or the mythic, and so on and so on.
Okay.
And about the frequency of dropping the water bottles during exploring the wastelands, well, it's not that easy. It depends on your level. So when you're lower level, then there are much more water bottle drops during exploring. And as you grow and you're getting higher and a higher level, the drop simply decrease each level which you get. So as you mentioned, you are 55, around 60. So I would assume that you should get around a 1 water bottle each 2 weeks from exploring the wastelands on average.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Is there any way? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
And that is 2 weeks, just so people know. That's 2 weeks in real lifetime of exploring.
Yeah. So I simply took the number out of my head, but I keep basically most of the formulas there, so I can simply calculate quickly on what's the average on X, and I can calculate on my own without the Lost Vault help.
I was
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
I was wondering on the same topic of the water bottles, because I do enjoy the algorithm of the water bottle. And Camille, the water bottles are the most valuable things in the game because it allows you to exponentiate your experience growth, your cash gain, and take advantage and subtly manipulate the events because there are not that many of them. With 7 events each year, holding on to the maximum number of water bottles allows you to take care of any kind of like loss of experience gain. You can force that experience gain, which can kind of greatly increase your numbers. Combining that with the consumables like the candy bar and things like that, you can really maximize your experience gains. And I do understand the whole item that you get higher level, you get less water bottles. But I was wondering, would we ever, if this isn't inappropriate to ask, will we ever have an opportunity to perhaps maybe do a slot machine for more water bottles? Or sorry about that, I'm getting a background noise from, I'm gonna mute myself real quick. Will we be able to ever buy water bottles or find some other way to utilize them? I'm gonna mute.
All right, so you can buy consumables in the shop, which we have in the game already, but only the consumables like the strength or intelligence. When you resupply the shop, you can drop this, but you cannot buy from the shop the water bottles, just for the reason which you mentioned, that the water bottles are quite open mechanism that you can use in order to boost your gains in the game. That's the most powerful item, basically. So you can use any other item, but the water bottle is still the most powerful one. And I definitely won't allow in the future buying the water. So there won't be ever a mechanism to buy a water for real money or anything like that, because that's
a little too pay for play.
Yeah, that's too much paid to win the game. Like, I'm gonna buy a lot of water bottles and then I can explore infinitely, basically.
Yeah. Well, that's, and that's particularly what I like about the events that has, the small water. So water bottles are, I think the minimum is 20%, and then it's 40, 60, 80, and 100% water resupply. That's why I really like those events where it gives you little micro ones where it's 3% or 6% or 9%. Because you're not going to hold on to those, or very rarely would you would just use them, and you end up just paying more that day, because you're not going to waste the inventory backpack space for a 3% water. It's better to just use it that day. Maybe you save the 9% one, maybe, but probably not. You probably just use it. So that's why I kind of like those micro ones a little bit, because you're using them in the moment, and not hoarding them per se for the perfect time to use them. And then it just gives a little bit more variety to the regular things that you're doing in the game. For us players, and particularly the blind players, it sounds like the best way to help you create an accessible game is just when we see something, just reach out to you and kindly let you know that this part isn't working, or could you add a label here, or this just says button, but I don't know what it does. It's just providing you the information, the best way that we can help you create even more accessible game.
Yeah, that's correct. The best if you simply join the Discord and then you report your problem. You have a separate channel, the bugs, and you simply start a thread there, describe what exactly the problem is, and I will simply reproduce it locally with the voiceover, and we'll simply see that, yeah, indeed, there is some accessibility issue there, and we will fix it if that's possible to fix immediately, or we'll put it into my backlog of work in order to make the game even more accessible.
So, what is, I know you just released some things like the altar that you were just saying, and you did mention in 2023, maybe some more events potentially, but what else is on the horizon as potential new content for Lost Vault?
So the biggest change which will occur in 1 month or so is a complete redesign of the game, which maybe is not that impactful for our blind users because you simply cannot see what's on the screen. Like, we have much nicer colors, etc. But it also involves improvements to the accessibility itself. So it should be much easier to navigate across the screens. So that's probably the biggest part of the accessibility improvements. I've also see on the Discord that there are reported some issues like reading big numbers or making the caravan up to the 10 hours because the slider doesn't really work as you expect it to be.
Yeah, there's a hack around for that, so you can get to the 10.
I've seen it on the Discord that you encountered some kind of workaround on how to fix it, but I'm planning to make it work smoothly without any kind of workarounds. It would be much easier for you to use it like we expect it to work.
Yeah, I got blown away when someone's like, I run the caravan for 10 hours. Like 10 hours? How do you do that? And he's like, oh, here's how you get around it. And that changes things because it kind of like exponentially gets bigger if you go from 7 to 10 hours. It's quite a substantial difference of how much gear or material you get back by running those extra 3 hours.
Otherwise you have to come back after 6 or 7 hours to the game and then start again the caravan. So it's quite exhausting in order to get back so many times to the game.
Right.
I'm also trying to buy some real high quality assets for the sound effects because we have some sound effects in the game, but these are a really basic one, and I would like to introduce a much more sound effects and some kind of background music. Would be really nice to have some ambient music which plays during your session. We don't have it yet, but would be great to have. We have also a second subclass. So we have a first subclass where you are a knight, you can become a guardian, and then you should be able to get another class which already leaked, and that's a paladin. So we had one player, which is basically, that was me. So I'm testing the game on the production with all their players. And then at some point of time, they realized that one of the players have a different symbol, like, who is he? Like, I didn't see such class anywhere. And that's me, that's a paladin. And the second subclass should be released also in the first half of the year.
Nice.
We also have the apply to the clan directly, because right now, if you want to join the clan, you need to write a message to the clan leader, and then he can invite you. So the process is quite long because you need to write a message. It needs to be taken from the leader and so on. And I plan it to work a bit differently. Like if you as a clan leader allow players to join your clan immediately, you enable some toggle, like it's a public clan, and then I can find you on the list and click join, and voila, I'm a member of your clan, and you don't need to invite me on your own. That would simplify the process of acquiring new players to your clan, because that's quite hard process at the moment to find players who would like to join your clan. And the last system which I can talk at the moment is perk system. So as you know, we have in the game the skills. So you get a skill point every level after 50. But I also plan to make a perks. The perk is like a skill, but it's not about the combat. So it's used outside of the combat. Like you can have more water or a higher chance to encounter the special encounters and so on and so forth. So there will be a lot of different perks which are not related to the combat. So that's another thing which will make your build unique, and some strategic thinking on what perks should I get in order to level up quickly or much quicker than other players. So that's definitely also my roadmap and much more, but I don't really like to plan like a 10 of items on what could I develop, because as I mentioned, I'm just on my own building the game. So I'm keeping the list quite short, but focusing on the targets.
One of these, and maybe this is a farther out consideration if you decide you like it, but so you have the vault that you're running in, and the vault has its 5 levels that are going on. I always thought it might be interesting to have multiple vaults, and so you're on vault A and you've gone into level 3, but you can't move on to level 4 unless you find the golden key, and the golden key you actually find on level 2 of vault B. So you have like multiple vaults that you're really running at the same time to be able to advance further in one. You have to find something in one of the other vaults, and maybe there's some hint of you're looking for an ice key. Oh, you're looking for an ice key. Let me go to the vault that's in the the ice zone, and then I'll go through that until I find the ice key, and now I can come back here and use the ice key to open up level 4 of whatever fire vault I'm in right now. So I always thought that would be kind of an interesting way to add again some strategy or thinking around the actual running through each vault level.
Yeah, that's interesting, but the biggest problem is that we will have to have a lot of different vaults. At the moment, we have only 10, and in order to make it non-linear, we will have to make much more. But the concept itself is really interesting. I think that I've seen it in one game called Shakes and Fidget. They have quite similar mechanics to acquire different keys from different vaults, and you can explore different vaults at the same time. And yeah. in the Lost Vault, it's a bit easier, but yeah, I took a note about it.
Yeah. Well, even with, you have 10 vaults with 5 levels each. That's 50 levels that you're talking about. That seems like, it would be, interesting. You're going back and forth, and maybe it's always kind of like you have 3 or 4 vaults that you're kind of bouncing between at the same time until you clear one, and the next 4th one, you drop off number 1 and you open up number 5, sort of thing. So you always have kind of 4 that you're moving around in.
Yeah, that would simulate like a open world, like.
Yeah, exactly. It gives you a little bit more open world feel. Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
I imagine that takes a lot more code and work, but that's why I said it might be a long off goal if you like it.
Yeah, I have a plenty of time. Well, a plenty of time if we are talking about in incoming few years. So it probably won't happen this year, but I will take a note, and maybe we'll come back to the topic in the next year.
Great. Well, Kamil, I wanted to say thank you very much for creating Lost Vault. It's a great game, and again, it's very accessible for the blind community, which is why I think the blind community has really taken to it, and you have quite a few users who are using VoiceOver and playing your game. And I wanted to say congratulations to you for winning the Mobile Accessible Games Game of the Year. Again, that is community voted on, so the people who are in that group, I gave them a list of games that were eligible, Lost Vault being one of them, and they ended up picking your game as the winner. So that's from the people award, not from just from me. It's from the whole community. So again, congratulations on the win, and we really look forward to all the different features that you're adding and the things that you have slated for 2023. It's very, very exciting.
Yeah, thank you very much for the reward. It's really great for me, especially taking into account that like 2 years ago I wasn't really aware about the accessibility at all. Like it's been like a rocket science for me, and 2 years later I'm winning awards for a best mobile game which is accessible by the players. So wow, that's really great.
Yeah, you can add it to all your promo material.
I'd also like to say, Kamil, all my subscribers would like to really thank you for your accessibility. I have about 3,000 plus subscribers who are mostly blind and visually impaired, and you do provide so many assets for those who are visually diverse also, and we appreciate it 100%. Also, I'd also like to say thank you so much for accepting some of the ideals about the vaults. It does create that open world kind of philosophy. But I also want to say thank you very much for keeping your balance rock solid. You do seem to have a very solid algorithm. You could probably take over YouTube's algorithm. Your algorithm is very solid. But my channel, my subscribers definitely wanted to say thank you. You give us the MMO that we've never had in the blind and visually impaired community, and we appreciate everything that you do.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful to you because you are the most impactful influencer of the Lost Vault, basically over the whole internet. There is not a single person who influences so many players in order to play the game. When I search on the YouTube for the Lost Vault videos, just to see if anyone produced something new, I see that you are producing a new video. Like, wow, I'm
yeah.
Thank you. I'm doing it.
Yeah, I mean, you have videos on multiple different characters. Like, how many Lost Vault videos do you now have, Michael?
We're way over 25 videos, but I also have a secondary playlist, and I am doing a speed playthrough. There is a new class. I love the Guardian class, and I can't wait to play any new subclasses. I'm super excited about your Paladin class because I can do a whole new playthrough with them going from level 1 and up, and it's very exciting. I do love it. I love being the person who kind of is the ambassador to anyone who wants to know how to play Lost Vault. We've got so many people that are just stepping into it and they are just saying, wow, this is an incredible game. It's so versatile, has so many avenues of play, and it doesn't require, a lot of money. It's free to play. I can do so much, and there's minimal monetization, and the developer really cares about the accessibility. So I can go on and on, but thank you. Yes.
Again, Kamil, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us about the game and letting us know some of your future plans. I'm sure everyone's going to be very excited to hear about that. And again, if you ever want to come back to the group and announce anything that you have, dropping or being released, we will always be excited to hear about it.
Thank you very much for the talk.
Thank you.